Can we brew it? I'm Phil. This is Phil with Facts. And today we are going to see, can we brew V8 Splash? So this is going to be a newer kind of segment on my channel. I'm going to take things you might not necessarily brew normally and see, can we do it? This is going to be some of those very sugary juices, things in the supermarket that have stabilizers and all kinds of other fun stuff in them, and see what will fermentation do to it. Now, on its own, this is probably a very tasty drink. I'm going to show you guys the ingredients here. And you'll see, it has high fructose corn syrup, which is fermentable. Sweet potato juice from concentrate. Concentrate's not bad, so I have no issues with that. I've never fermented sweet potato juice before, so we'll get to find out what that tastes like. Carrot juice, natural flavorings, citric acid. Having a little citric acid in here is not bad either. I actually use citric acid to give a little bit of tartness to some of my drinks. What I find interesting is that it's a berry blend, but there's no berries. Guess the natural flavor? Oh, I'm really not making fun of this product, and I'm not saying it's not a good juice. I'm just saying it's not a good juice for brewing, unless it is. Now, I'm not saying this isn't a good product. It's probably very tasty. In fact, we're going to try some in just a little bit. I'm just saying, normally when you create a recipe for fermenting a wine or a mead, you want to get the best quality juice you can get with the least amount of ingredients. You don't want any of the preservatives in there. You want to make a very healthy fermentation. It's going to make a very clean and tasty wine. However, this has a bunch of different stabilizers and stuff in there that might not ferment so well. So we're going to create a must, which is the pre-fermented wine. We are going to give it a good yeast. We're going to give it all the things it would need. We're going to let it ferment through. And then we're going to see where it's at. Did it ferment dry? Is there still some sugar in it? What does it taste like? We're going to put it into secondary if it needs any adjuncts, such as tannins or acid. I can't imagine it's going to need any acidic component to it, but you never know. We're going to balance it correctly. And then we're going to let it sit in secondary for a little while. And then I'm going to give it a real score based on what my preferences are and what it does have and what it is lacking. And we'll go from there. I think that's going to be a really fun experiment, something really neat, and something you really don't see too often. So why don't we try it? So it smells fruity, really good. It's a little on the sweet side for my personal taste, but it's a tasty drink. You know, not bad. Not something I normally reach for in the supermarket, not my go-to. I have no real critiques about it. I am curious, though. What do we think a reading of it would give us? It's kind of important to know. So on its own, it's reading about a 1.020. So there's not a whole lot of sugar in there. So I'm probably going to add about, I don't know, 2 pounds or so. I want to give it a nice respectable gravity so that we actually are getting something out of it and we are giving it a fair fermentation process. I was thinking of just throwing some yeast into the juice itself and letting that ferment dry. However, I don't normally brew things that low. I mean, I don't really want to brew something at like 3 or 4% ABV, and I don't really think it's a fair test for it, because if it was another juice, I wouldn't do it that way. So we're going to take it for the full ride. Nice respectable ABV, and I'm going to build my must today in this pitcher. I should say before anything else, everything you're going to see that goes into this brew today was sanitized. Please use a food grade safe sanitizer when brewing. It just helps and creates a nice clean environment, helps you control what microbes are going to be in your brew. Now, for building today's must, I'm going to do it in this pitcher. Now, this pitcher has letters on the side, and it tells me exactly how many ounces I'm putting into it. I know that 128 ounces, or I should say a gallon, will fit in this jar perfectly. And if you want, you can build the must directly in the jar. I'm just starting to really like the accuracy of knowing exactly how much must I start with. It helps me figure out how much I'm losing. It helps keep a nice level inside the jar where there's enough room for fermentation to happen without it splashing everywhere. I'm just finding a lot more accuracy with it. However, if you don't have a secondary pitcher to make it in, you don't have to. Although, I don't really suppose anybody's going to be doing this experiment along with me. However, if we get to part 3 and it's absolutely incredible, I'll let you know, and then this would be a good video to come back to and see how it was done. First jug is in. Now I'm going to add my sugar. Today I'm going to add 2 pounds. I think that's going to be just enough. Alright, now let's add a little bit more of the juice. Again, I'm trying to just go to the 128 ounce mark. And I still have a few other things to add. So, I'm not going to go all the way just yet. I'm going to get close. Now we want to stir all that sugar in. Otherwise, there's no way I'm ever going to get an accurate gravity reading. And don't be worried about oxidizing it at this point of the game. We want a little bit of oxygen to get into the must anyway. It's going to help the colony to start to grow and do all the things that they're going to do. Alright, while we're mixing, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of pectic enzyme. I'm going to go out on a limb and say there are definitely some pectins in here. And if not, it won't hurt. But I just have a feeling it's going to help it clear out at the end. I'm also going to add some yeast nutrient. Now, there's a ton out there. I recommend getting the one that is most readily available for you, whether that's using Amazon or going to a local homebrew store. And then, depending on what you get, it's going to have different instructions on how much to use per gallon. In my case, it's going to be 2 tablespoons per gallon. And my pectic enzyme I used is about half a teaspoon per gallon. So knowing how much you need to add is important. It's how much the yeast are actually going to need to keep themselves going. Don't forget, there's just juice in here. And there's a whole bunch of things the yeast are probably not going to like. So giving a little extra something to get going and eat is going to make all the difference. And I want to make this fair. I want to give the yeast the best shot of going straight through a fermentation with this and giving us an accurate thing at the end. It doesn't help anything if I don't give it its best shot. So we're not trying to heat it in any way, shape, or form. Let's go ahead and mix all that in. It might stay a little clumpy, especially the yeast nutrient. It's not a big deal. The yeast will still eat it and it will not throw a gravity off. But I like to just try to break it up as much as I can. I'm now going to take a gravity reading and see where my must is currently at. This is where the pitcher with the spout comes in very handy. I have a 1.110, which is perfect. I plan to use a very strong yeast today. This is probably going to go somewhere between 14-16%-ish, and my yeast can 100% handle that. Now, if you're a little thrown off by what those numbers mean, I'm measuring the specific gravity. That's basically how much sugar is in the liquid per volume, and that's going to tell me a few things. Is it working? When is it done working? Did it stall out? And how much alcohol I'm going to have at the end. Now, to convert it to how much alcohol will be in here, I have a rough idea based on those numbers. However, there's a ton of apps with calculators or websites that will do it for you. I'm sure there's Google pages you can go to, and it'll tell you what that equates to. Yeah, there's a ton of apps and things of that nature that will tell you exactly what your beginning gravity minus your ending gravity will equal as to alcohol percentage at the end. For example, if I start with my 1.1000 and I end at a 1.010, I'm going to roughly have that amount of alcohol, and it's just good to know. Is it super critical to know how much alcohol is in your brew? Nah. You're probably not going to know the difference between a 13% and a 15% or a 9% and a 11%. Not taste-wise. The stronger you do go, the higher you do go, the more alcohol you will taste. However, it's good to know, oh, my yeast ate that amount of sugar, and my brew is probably not going to ferment any further than it's gone, which will give you a good indication that you can start secondary or whatever other steps you might be up to at that point. So now the neat thing is, I have a pitcher. I know how much liquid's in it. And I don't have to make a whole mess. It just pours nice and easy right in. Perfect. I got plenty of headroom. I know how much liquid's in here. And when the yeast take off, and I have a feeling they're going to take off, even if they don't go through the entire brew, there's a lot of sugar in here, and they're definitely going to eat that. But I have enough room if that does happen. So now today's yeast is going to be 71B. This is an absolute monster of a yeast. And I have no doubt that it could handle whatever this brew is going to throw at it. I'm going to use the whole packet. Now, I probably could have mixed it in here as well. I don't think it makes much of a difference. Give it a good stir. It's going to get all clumpy. It's going to look rather interesting. I'm going to splash it all over myself. But that's pretty much it for that. So now I'm going to fix the lid right on top. Make sure it's nice and tight. Create a seal. I'm going to put on an airlock. And now we're just going to wait. I'm going to give this at least a day before I check back up on it. See if anything actually happens. And then if it does get going and it's a strong fermentation, this should be pretty much done within a week or two. So we're going to let this go for about 2 weeks. At which point I'm going to take some readings. I'm going to see, did it ferment? If it did, I want to see how much it fermented. Did it go all the way through? 2 weeks is enough time that this strain of yeast that I have very good luck with should be able to blow through all the sugars in here. Then we're going to taste it. Is it any good? If it has some hope where I think we can still work with it, well, A, it might be fantastic. We have no idea yet. It might just need a little tweaking. Maybe some tannins, maybe some acid. We'll see what we can do with it. And then we're going to put it into secondary. Let it get a little age on it. And we'll see, did we make a good wine with V8 Splash? I'm interested. If you guys are interested or have any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave them in the comments. I'd also like to know, what else would you like to see me ferment in this way? Are there any other things you've ever seen in the supermarket that you said, huh, I wonder, could I make a wine with that? Please, leave it in the comment. Maybe I've worked with it before. Maybe it's the next video. I would love to find out. In the meantime, if you guys are interested to see where this goes, please subscribe, like this video, interact with it in some way so that you get notified when I put part 2 up. But that's all I have for now, so I will see you guys next time.